It was barely 9 a.m. when I stumbled out onto the deck, coffee in hand, hoping for nothing more than a quiet morning by the water, and right there, blinding as a sunrise migraine, was a fluorescent orange sticker screaming across the hull of my old fishing boat. Violation. Immediate removal ordered by HOA. You know that feeling when the universe hands you a moment so absurd you almost wonder if you're still dreaming? That was me, standing there barefoot, hot coffee scalding my toes, gawking at my own boat like it was a crime scene. And there she was. Karen Tillman, HOA president. Bluetooth headset always on, clipboard clamped under her arm like it contained the nuclear codes, pointing at my boat as if she'd found a terrorist hiding in the reeds. I almost laughed out loud. Actually, I did. Coffee splashed onto my bare foot, and that pain snapped me right back to reality, because Karen was shouting at me from across the dock, voice echoing over the water, telling me I had 48 hours to move my boat or face daily fines, county reports, and maybe even revoked lake access. Which, mind you, would be a neat trick, seeing as I own the lake. Not rent, not lease. I mean deed in the safe, water rights and cattails to the mud own. But Karen, in her full glory, hadn't bothered to read the fine print, and this was about to get interesting real fast. So I set my mug down, gentle, like the calm before a storm, walked right across the gravel, pebbles digging into my soles, and in the calmest voice I could muster, I asked her if she was absolutely sure she wanted to do this. She barely paused, muttered into her headset, "He's non-compliant," then strutted away like she'd delivered judgment from on high. Right there, I knew ignoring the sticker wasn't going to cut it. If the HOA wanted war over a boat on my lake, I was about to teach them a master class in property law. The escalation was almost funny, at first. Every day, a new fine, blue gel pen signature from Karen like she was signing autographs for her own anger. She even published my boat in the HOA newsletter, zoomed in, calling me a community rule breaker endangering lake harmony. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my tackle box. But the humor died quick when I overheard her at the clubhouse telling board members that once the boat was gone, she'd push for dock removal, too. That's when the gloves came off. She wasn't just after my boat. She was coming for the life I'd built here, my one true sanctuary. I called Martin, old college roommate, now county assessor. Met him at the edge of my property line with the full survey map. He unrolled it across his truck, tracing the squiggly ink that marked the lake, confirming what I already knew in my bones. I owned every inch. Dock to dock, surface to mud. Karen's precious HOA property ended 6 feet from my shoreline. Martin, with a grin, reminded me that if I wanted, I could kick every single HOA boat off my lake. Every paddleboard, every floaty. And as I stood on my dock that night, moon reflected like a coin tossed by fate, I realized the best revenge wasn't loud. It was silent, legal, and final. Instead of moving my boat, I moved paperwork. Next morning, my lawyer drafted a formal notice revoking all HOA boating privileges on account of trespassing. 100 copies, thick paper, handed out at the Saturday brunch meeting like party favors at a wake. Karen's face went from pink to ghost white as she read the first paragraph. She tried to invoke bylaws and historical use, but my lawyer, sunglasses mirrored, produced the survey and title deed. The room went silent, then turned chaotic, board members fumbling phones, Karen calling for votes nobody listened to. All that, over a sticker on a boat. But this wasn't the end, just the opening move. Monday, I put up new signs at every lake entry, private waters. Access restricted. Violators will be towed. Laminated maps of property lines. By noon, 3 kayaks had retreated to driveways. Karen left me a voicemail that started fake-friendly, spiraled into an unhinged rant about community cohesion, and ended with a drawer slam. I called my lawyer again. Lease agreements, premium rates for Karen and her circle, mailed certified. I watched her open the envelope, face cycling through confusion, indignation, and mild cardiac arrest. That night, the HOA scrambled an emergency meeting. I wasn't invited, but Tom, neighbor, former treasurer, Karen's coup victim, called me after, barely able to hold back laughter. Karen spun the situation as a miscommunication, but members wanted to know why slips were off limits, why Karen hadn't checked lake ownership before declaring war. When asked if she'd apologize, her voice hit a pitch reserved for dog whistles. She threatened to build her own lake. Yeah, that happened. In her next move, Karen doubled down in the newsletter. Rogue landholders, selfish water hoarders, those who mistake ownership for omnipotence. It was a masterpiece of passive aggression. I framed it. Then, she organized a community paddle parade, hoping to shame me with a flotilla of decorated kayaks. But trespassing is trespassing, even with sparkly life vests. I called the sheriff. Deputy Joe Keller, my cousin's brother-in-law, who shared beers with me on this lake, showed up, flashing lights, issued polite warnings, reminded everyone I was within my rights. Karen tried to debate him, waving the newsletter like the Constitution. Joe, deadpan. Ma'am, are you making a point or just wet paper? The video went viral. HOA lady loses it over lake she doesn't own. 30,000 views, sea of popcorn emojis. Karen, seeing the shift, tried to pivot, town forum, but only 5 showed up, 1 just for the donuts. She then formed a lake usage committee to negotiate, a mix of retirees, failed realtors, and Dennis, who wore Bluetooth in both ears like he was in an FBI sting. The committee proposed rotating dock schedules and lake time allocations. Basically, HOA trying to tax my property through bureaucracy. I slid them an invoice, retroactive lease fees, late charges, every boat launch documented. Dennis choked on his coffee. One woman gasped. Karen turned a color I'd never seen. One man suggested, maybe we should just pay him. The mask slipped. After the meeting, I got 17 emails, members asking about leases, discounts for seniors. I offered fair terms, made it clear my issue was never with the community, just the authoritarian overreach. Karen tried to regain control with a neighborhood vote, failed. Then a survey for a Lake Day boycott, more no's than yes, and some artistic middle fingers. She filed a formal complaint with the County Lakeside Oversight Committee, dragging me into a 2-hour hearing in a freezing municipal room. She brought color-coded binders and a poster board with my fishing photo circled in red. I brought my lawyer and proof, title, plats, filings. The panel ruled for me in 10 minutes. Karen tried to appeal, was told appeals required more than emotional dissatisfaction. As we left, I offered the panel a signed copy of her newsletter for their break room. That week, 2 board members resigned. Another left a note. I didn't sign up for lake warfare. Karen tried to rally support with a Save Our Shoreline gala. Only 10 showed. The band canceled. She poured cheap wine to elevator jazz. I installed new solar boundary lights around the lake. Neighbors started dropping by for advice on HOA bullying. Local paper ran a story, Dock Dynasty, man wins back lake from HOA. Karen, ever the brand, declared, this is just a ripple in a larger wave. The next phase, dismantling her HOA charter from within. Tom and I spent hours poring over bylaws, found a clause, 2 validated complaints, 30% petition, recall vote on president. Quietly, I collected signatures, no online drama, personal letters, mailbox conversations. 35 signatures, hand-delivered to the HOA secretary, who looked like someone had just handed him the last piece of a puzzle he'd been staring at for years. 7 days, recall vote scheduled. Karen spun the petition as a smear campaign, but the signatures were real. She held a unity cookout, wore a sash, overcooked hot dogs, begged for sympathy. Next day, a special newsletter accused me of planning to drain the lake for a helipad. Nobody bought it. The day of the vote, the clubhouse was standing room only, silent, charged, like a movie verdict. Karen gave a speech, emotional, defensive, warned of chaos, without her. The votes were counted. 63 for recall, 18 against. No cheer, just a collective exhale. Karen didn't speak, just left, heels echoing, clipboard at her side. Tom, newly instated, stripped half the rules, recognized my lake as separate, dissolved the committee. The morning after, I took my boat out at sunrise, lake calm, air clean, neighbors waving, nobody hero-worshipping, just relief. But as I watched the ripples spread, I saw a new sign by the clubhouse. Karen's clubhouse, members only. She'd set up a rogue HOA, private events, fake rules, and the same handwriting as her old violation slips. Her loyal few still clung to her rulebook, but most neighbors just wanted peace. Her attempts to regain control grew more desperate. False noise complaints, fake lake safety warnings, flyers stuffed in mailboxes calling me a community threat. I gathered every piece of evidence. One morning, I filed a formal complaint for harassment and unlawful distribution of personal data. The county magistrate set a hearing date to review her new organization's legality. But the twist? While she threw brunches in her fake clubhouse, I bought the land it stood on. The parcel, foreclosed and up for sale, quietly became mine. The final move started with a call from the county. Deed finalized. Karen's last throne was now my property. The next morning, I posted new signs: private property, Lawson Lake Holdings, unauthorized access prohibited. The news spread. Karen's followers melted away. She called, texted, showed up at my dock, accused me of betrayal, conspiracy, legacy theft. I said nothing, just handed her the deed. 48 hours to vacate, or anything left behind would be donated. That was it. She left quietly. No drama, no audience. Just gone. With Karen out, the building became a real community center. Art classes, scout meetings, science programs for kids who'd never seen a lake up close. The air changed. Neighbors brought muffins instead of complaints. One day, Tom handed me a paper. Former HOA president fined for unauthorized signage. Small, poetic justice. I didn't gloat. The lake was finally just a lake, not a battleground, not a pawn in someone's power trip. The ending, though, wasn't all fairy tale neat. One evening, I spotted Karen, alone, arms crossed, staring at the water. No anger, no apology, just hollow, like someone who'd lost a fight she never understood. She read the new sign, turned, and walked away, out of the story, out of our lives. A week later, we gathered for a low-key cookout at the new community center. No banners, no rules, just good food, laughter, kids at the shoreline. An old neighbor clapped me on the back and said, "We didn't know we needed someone to own the lake until someone finally did it right." I took it as a reminder. The quietest revolutions start with a single person refusing to move their boat. That night, I lit a lantern on the dock, watched the light ripple across the water. No more stickers, no more drama. Just peace, the kind you only get by standing your ground and saying, "No, you know what I mean." Now, tell me, who was right, who was wrong, and what does justice even look like in a neighborhood war? Drop your thoughts below, because in the end, maybe the only line that really matters is the one you refuse to let someone else cross.